In the quiet town of Emula, 3 friends wandered its dusty streets with dreams of wealth and prosperity. Their names were James, Alex, and Mike. Growing up together, they shared everything: hopes, laughter, and endless stories of escaping their simple lives for something greater. Emula was a small town where everyone knew each other, and hard work was the only way to survive. But legends in Emula spoke of hidden treasures, magical items left behind by ancient beings, waiting to be found by those brave enough to seek them. James, Alex, and Mike were often fascinated by these legends, listening to stories about enchanted forests and mysterious valleys. One hot afternoon, the 3 friends decided to explore a part of the forest no one dared to enter, the Valley of Secrets. Many in Emula believed this valley was cursed, holding mystical powers that few could comprehend. As they ventured deeper, a strange feeling settled over them, a mix of fear and excitement. The forest grew denser, the air heavier, and a peculiar silence filled the valley, making their hearts race. Suddenly, they stumbled upon an unusual sight, a small clearing with an old bronze bell, half buried in the earth. James knelt down and brushed the dirt off the bell. Its metal was tarnished, but it glimmered faintly under the sun. "Look at this. Do you think it's worth something?" James asked, his eyes wide with curiosity. Alex leaned in, his voice barely a whisper. "It looks ancient. Maybe it's special." Mike reached forward, saying, "There is only one way to find out." Without much thought, James decided to ring the bell, curiosity overwhelming him. The sound it made was rich and enchanting, echoing through the trees like 1,000 voices whispering in unison. James could tell this sounded different, compared to the sound of bells he is familiar with. He continues to ring the bell, but this time, ringing it more than once, each sound echoed. As he rang the bell for the 3rd time, something unbelievable happened. Money began appearing at their feet, crisp bills scattered across the ground. James could feel the warmth of the bell in his hands. The 3 friends stared in shock, then erupted in joyous laughter, scooping up the money as they marveled at their newfound fortune. This is real," James stammered, clutching the cash in his hands. They quickly gathered the money and exchanged excited glances, knowing they had discovered something extraordinary. After a moment of stunned silence, the friends made a pact: they would share the bell's magic equally. James suggested, "Let's rotate it daily. Each of us will have a turn to ring the bell and collect the money. That way, no one feels cheated." Alex nodded thoughtfully. "1 ring per turn, and only on our day. No sneaking back for extra. We each get the same." Mike agreed, grinning. "Sounds fair. But we've got to trust each other." They shook hands, agreeing to start the rotation immediately. James would have the bell on Mondays, Alex on Tuesdays, and Mike on Wednesdays. The cycle would then repeat. Each would get their day, and none would interfere with the others. They promised to stay loyal, trust one another, and never let greed come between them. With that, they hid the bell in a secret spot, agreeing to only use it as planned. For the first few weeks, everything went smoothly. Each friend took his turn and the money flowed steadily. They used their new wealth to buy fine clothes, enjoy lavish meals, and even dreamed of leaving Emula to see the world. They all started living in a big house together. Their lives changed in ways they had only imagined, and their bond grew stronger as they celebrated their good fortune together. Despite their newfound wealth, it did so little to cover the flaws each friend carried within. James, in particular, struggled with an insatiable urge to gamble, a habit that had taken root long before he ever held the magic bell. No matter how much money he gained, it seemed to vanish just as quickly in high-stakes games. Alex's habits had only intensified. He was drawn to the thrill of new company, often seen with a different woman on his arm each night. But as time passed, a subtle tension began to simmer beneath the surface. One night, James lay awake, thinking about the bell and its incredible power. It was the night before James's turn, but he couldn't stop thinking about the bell. The money he'd won at gambling was nearly gone again, and he needed a fresh stash if he was going to cover his debts. He knew it was wrong. They had agreed only one ring, only on each person's day. But as he sat alone in his room, the temptation gnawed at him, louder than his guilt. He convinced himself it was just this once, that the others would never know. Who would know? The thought whispered in his mind, tempting him. James stared at the calendar, thinking, what's the harm if I ring the bell just for today? They'll never know. Unable to resist, he crept out, took the bell, and rang it 3 times. Money appeared again, and he quickly pocketed it, smiling to himself. The next morning, Alex noticed something strange. He could see some money on the floor. Apparently some money had fallen from James' pocket when he rang the bell at night. Alex picked up the money and said nothing. But suspicion crept into his heart. Someone must have been taking money from behind, he thought within himself, planting a seed of anger in him. That night, Alex took the bell for his turn but also decided to ring it an extra time the next day, justifying it as harmless. 3 weeks later, Mike couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. He'd been careful to stick to the agreement, ringing the bell only on his assigned day, but somehow his friend seemed to be spending far more freely than he could. James, especially, was almost always flush with cash, gambling bigger than ever before. Mike knew James's habits all too well. There was no way he could afford to spend like this if he wasn't dipping into the bell when it wasn't his turn. Alex wasn't much better, flaunting his wealth with new clothes and expensive nights out. But rather than confront his friends, he took extra turn with the bell even before his own night. Soon, the trust they had once shared began to unravel, replaced by secrecy and suspicion. Each friend believed the others were cheating, and so each one started ringing the bell extra times in secret. The once tight pact between them had become fragile, weakened by unspoken accusations. James, Alex, and Mike each grew more protective of their wealth, their friendship now overshadowed by greed. The friends no longer shared the easy laughter they once had. Their conversations grew strained, each man haunted by his own secrets, each one clinging to the bell as if it were a lifeline. But deep down, they all knew it, the bell was not their salvation. It was a weight dragging them down, closer and closer to a breaking point. Finally, one evening, after they had few alcohol from a party and getting home, 2 of the friends started having arguments and the tension exploded. Unable to hold back, they confronted one another. Someone's been ringing the bell more than their fair share. Mike shouted, his eyes narrowed. Alex retorted, and you think it's not you who's been sneaking in extra turns, Mike? I'm not blind. James joined in, shouting, both of you are just as guilty. We made a promise, and now none of us can keep it. The argument escalated, voices echoing through the valley as they accused each other of betrayal. In their rage, they all reached for the bell, each one desperate to take control of the treasure they once shared. The bell slipped from their grasp, hitting the ground with a loud clang. A strange silence fell over them as they watched the bell begin to glow with a blinding light. The 3 friends staggered back, shielding their eyes, as the glow became brighter and brighter. When the light finally faded, they opened their eyes, only to find the bell had vanished. Shocked and confused, they searched the ground, hoping to find it, but the bell was gone. Their faces fell, and a heavy silence settled over them as they realized what had happened. Their greed had cost them the bell, and the huge wealth it had once brought. They were left with nothing but regret and the bitter taste of betrayal. They woke up the next morning, feeling defeated, weighed down by the shame of their actions. The townsfolk noticed the change in them, whispering among themselves, but the 3 friends never spoke of the bell again. Over time, they drifted apart, each going back to the simple life they had once known, poorer and wiser. Their friendship, that was so strong, like they are family, had been shattered by greed and distrust. In Emula, their story became a cautionary tale, a lesson on the dangers of sudden wealth and greediness. Parents told their children of James, Alex, and Mike, who had once found a magic bell that granted them riches. But the tale always ended the same way, with the friends losing everything because they couldn't resist the temptation of greed. Some say the bell remains hidden in the Valley of Secrets, waiting for others to find it. Others believe it vanished forever, taking its magic with it, never to be seen again. Yet, on quiet nights, the people of Emula claim to hear a faint ringing echoing from the valley. They say it's the ghostly sound of the bell, reminding all who listen of its vanished fortune. The tale of the magic bell lingered in Emula, a reminder that true wealth is not found in money. Instead, it lives in loyalty, trust, and the friendships that bind people together. And so, the story of James, Alex, and Mike continued to echo in Emula, a warning against the dangers of greed. For in the end, wealth without trust is only an illusion, leaving behind only the empty echo of broken promises. If you enjoy this story, please click the like button, drop comments, share with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe for more interesting stories. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.